The Kolsai National Park is one of the unique and the most beautiful places in the world. It is situated just in 275 kilometers from Almaty. The total area of the park is 160,000 hectares and its main jewel is mountain lakes that were formed here as a result of earthquakes. The three beautiful Kolsai lakes lie in the form of cascades in the mountain gorge of the eastern part of the ridge of Kungei Alatau. The word Kulsai in Kazakh means a lake in a gorge. Our ancestors believed that these lakes are one water body, and they were partially right. All the three lakes were formed with one river and were connected with cascade creeks. The first lake, the Lower Kolsai, is situated at 1,818 meters. Its length is 1 kilometer and it is 300 meters wide. The medium-sized lake Menjilka is at the altitude of 2,552 meters. It resembles a huge turquoise crystal cup that is surrounded by mountains. At the sunset, the surface of lakes Lower Kolsai and Menjilka is full of jumping trout. Upper Kolsai is situated 600 meters higher. At the 6th kilometer from it is a border with Kyrgyzstan. From the Sari-Bulak Pass 3 at 278 meters, there is a spectacular view to Lake Issyk-Kul. Some mistake Kaindy for one of the Kolsai lakes. Kaindy, being a natural water body, is a fascinating sight. From the surface of this lake, the peaks of flooded pine trees rise. They used to grow in the gorge, but an earthquake caused flooding, and the peaks of trees that stick out of the surface remind us of the forest that existed here over 100 years ago in 1911. So, Kaindy is a relatively recently formed water body from a geological point of view. The water here is extremely cold, which allowed the trees to remain in good shape. Through the crystal clear water, one can see the green branches of the pine trees. The three mountain lakes surrounded by gorgeous tall pine trees are a true treasure of the national beauty of northern Tian Shan. The pine woods of Tian Shan cover the northern slopes. These trees often form a significant part of forest massifs and usually grow in large groups. The Tian Shan fir tree may grow from 40 to 50 meters and 2 meters across. The belt of the pine woods is at the altitude of 3,000 meters. It gradually turns to highland alpine meadows. Tian Shan is one of the largest mountain systems in Asia. From Chinese, Tian Shan means heavenly mountains. On the territory of Kazakhstan, there is the most part of northern Tian Shan, as well as central and western parts of Tian Shan. Central Tian Shan, within the area of Kazakhstan, starts from a massive rock junction of Kantengri, which is 6,995 meters high at the borders of China, Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. It stretches west as a chain of ridges then. The largest of them is Kungei Alatau. On its eastern side is a border with Kyrgyzstan. Northern Tian Shan includes Ketmen, Kungei Alatau, Chu-Ili Alatau, Chu-Ili Mountains and Kyrgyz Alatau. The most of Tian Shan was formed as a result of rock formation in the Neogene and Quaternary periods of the Cainozoic era. The evidence of those processes are numerous earthquakes that still take place in Tian Shan. The common features of the mountains are diverse. The high peaks vary with lower and higher slopes and hills. The rock belt has been formed due to the specific geographic location of the mountain ridges. Numerous rivers flow down the spurs of the Tian Shan mountains to valleys. The northern slopes are the place where the big and small Almatinka rivers originate. Also the rivers Talgar, Issyk, Chilik, Kaskelen start there. From the northern slopes of Tian Shan flows the Charin. Many of them flow into the Ili River, whose estuary supplies Lake Balkhash. The peculiarities of the mountain climate, the altitude and the abundance of rainfall are the key factors in the diversity of the local landscapes. The flora of northern Tian Shan consists of 2,500 kinds of plants, which is half the whole flora of Tian Shan. More than half of it is found at 1,000 to 2,500 meters above sea level, and a quarter of this diversity is in the rock belt, and the rest grows in the lower hills and valleys. The main form of vegetation here is perennial grass species. Trees and bushes are in 115 forms. Experts notice similar floral forms across northern Tian Shan and other mountain regions of the world, including the Himalayas. The plant that attracts visitors here is the edelweiss that grows on the slopes of northern Tian Shan at the altitude of 2,500 to 3,000 meters. The beautiful and large flowers of edelweiss bloom on the right slopes of the upper bank of the river Chongkemin. One can rarely come across this plant near touristy paths. Tearing the rare plants is a pointless and harmful habit among visitors that may take this plant extinct, which happened in the mountains of Western Europe. Common bush plants of northern Tian Shan are junipers and willow trees. Most of the area is covered with mountain junipers. Small woods of willow trees grow closer to the upper edge of the wood on rocks of the northern slopes and ridges and on the soil of the ancient moraines. The mountain junipers grow in the subalpine zone of the western part of Tian Shan. They are very common in the valley of the river Chu-Ili and on the ridges of Kungei Alatau. The Tian Shan pine woods and plants form a massive forest belt. Apart from the shrank fir trees, one can find bird cherries, shrubs of rose, willow and aspen trees, as well as raspberries, honeysuckle and fern. The upper part of the zone is covered with thick bushes of juniper. The grass species include timothy, Asian globe flower, clove and tulips. Scientists say that in the distant past, in the eastern part of Kungei Alatau, there was a large forest that consisted of mossy spruce and white-leaf manzanites. The huge and thick wall of pine trees had massive lower branches. These virgin woods were called Taban Taragai by the Kazakhs, which means forest with a base. Now there is no sign of that abundance. The highest shrank pine tree reaches 50 meters and is found in the valleys of gorges. Closer to the outer forest border, these trees are lower, they may grow more slowly here, but they have a longer lifespan than in the lower part of the forest. On the upper edge of the forest, the Tian Shan fir tree changes its shape and covers the ground as a thick wooden layer. Their maximum lifespan here is 550 years. In the mountains of northern Tian Shan, one can find herbs that are applied in medicine and that are edible. Experienced travelers are aware of the importance of having steady sources of food when hiking in the mountains. On the other hand, the longer the hike in the mountains, the more provisions hikers have to carry with them. At the same time, the hiker has to make sure their rucksacks are not too heavy. Hikers don't usually consider edible plants as a source of food. Wild greenery is useful when hiking, not only for filling the stomach, but also for flavoring the food and enriching it with vitamins, compensating the energy loss when hiking. A number of herbs may serve as life catalysts, beneficial for the blood and hormones. They stimulate the brain and heart activities, as well as the excretory and digestive systems. The fauna of northern Tian Shan is as diverse as its flora. It is represented by a large number of species of birds, rodents, herbivorous species and predators. Chu-Ili and Kungei Alatau are densely inhabited by the Tian Shan marmot, which is a subspecies of the barbet marmot. It can be found in alpine and subalpine zones. Marmots inhabit open areas in large colonies. They are also found in pine wood clearings among thick shrubs of juniper and high grass. The mountains of northern Tian Shan are inhabited by a large number of herbivorous species such as ibex, Argali goat, roe deer and red deer, as well as by predator species, for example wildcats, stoat, marten, wild boar, fox, wolf, bear and snow leopard. In the 1940s, Argali goats were quite common in the mountains of Chu-Ili Alatau and Kungei Alatau. Later, their number decreased dramatically. The natural enemy of the Argali goat is the snow leopard that goes down the hill closer to the edge of the forest in the wintertime. The Argali goat is also prey for the wolf, and in the period of giving birth to its young, Argali goats are extremely vulnerable to the fox and the bearded falcon. The mountains of Chu-Ili Alatau are inhabited by wolves. The wolf is the largest representative of the dog family. It weighs up to 80 kilos. In the summer, wolves are often seen in the alpine meadows, where they stalk marmots and hoofed species. Their dens with cubs are usually inaccessible for humans. The brown white-clawed bear that is included in the Red Book of Rare Species inhabits both Chu-Ili and Kungei Alatau. It can also be found in the valleys of the Talgar and Issyk valleys. The bear's staple food is mostly local vegetation, and in the period of ripening of apples and raspberries, these fruit and berries become the main and often the only source of food for the bear. There were several accounts of hikers meeting bears in thick bushes of raspberries. As a predator in search of marmots, the bear is quite inventive and clever. Hoofed species such as Argali goat, red deer and the Siberian roe deer are quite common here too. Take an opportunity to visit the Kolsai National Park and you will have an unforgettable experience. You will enjoy the serenity and quietness of the spectacular landscapes. The lakes surrounded by rocks and forests, alpine meadows with edelweiss flowers and forests will mesmerize you. Today, it is of utmost importance that we save this unique wild corner of Mother Nature, and this is all up to us.